Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, lords and ladies. Welcome to the North. I am the self-proclaimed king in the North. This channel is all about the miniatures wargame, A Song of Ice and Fire, the miniatures game. Today, I'm doing a detailed game walkthrough that will hopefully answer any questions you may have about playing your first few games of Song. Let's go! Woo! Thanks for joining me, Game Room Generals. If you need a more detailed breakdown of the rules, be sure to check out this video. Otherwise, settle in as I take you through a matchup between the noble Starks and the devious Lannisters. Let's go to the board. First up, the Lannisters are commanded by Gregor Clegane. He features a number of tactic cards that increase his army's attack power, an area that can be a weakness for the Lannisters. Gregor is attached to a unit of Lannister guardsmen, featuring their thick armor but a less than stellar attack profile. Next, the Lannisters feature a unit of Clegane's Mountains Men. They have some strong attack abilities, but they can be hampered by their weaker armor and losing ranks of men. Attached to the Mountains Men is Sandor Clegane, featuring Fueled by Slaughter and Furious Charge. Next, the Lannisters are bringing a unit of crossbowmen, who they hope can recreate the Reigns of Castamere. This is an excellent ranged unit that brings some punch to the Lannister ranks. Attached to the crossbowmen is Tyrion Lannister. His order counter strategy is a great way to cancel enemy tactic cards. After this are the House Clegane Brigands. They are bringing some speed and looking to spread some panic in the enemy ranks by attacking the flanks and rear. The last in the field for the Lannisters is a unit of Halberdiers. Their order, set for charge, helps them guard the flanks of the army because it allows them to turn and face a threat and get in a preemptive strike against attackers. Jaime Lannister bolsters their weak attack profile with his order Martial Training. Rounding out the Lannister army are the non-combat units, or NCUs as they're called. Cersei Lannister uses her playing the game ability to make sure the Lannisters get some crucial tactic cards. Grand Maester Pycelle helps generate a few weaken tokens to blunt enemy attacks. And last of all, the High Sparrow brings some much needed healing to the Lannister army. Leading off, House Stark is commanded by Eddard Stark, Lord of Winterfell. His Rally Cry and Iron Resolve abilities are great ways to stiffen the back of any army. Eddard is attached to a unit of his own Honor Guard. These are basically upgraded Sworn Swords. Following this is a unit of Sworn Swords. They start with a very average attack profile, but due to Winter's Bite, they gain power the more damage they take. Attached to the Sworn Swords are Bran and Hodor, adding some attack power through the abilities Hodor and Hodor! Next, the Starks are bringing a unit of House Umber Berserkers. These guys actually gain attack power the more damage they take. Attached to the Berserkers is Robb Stark, the Young Wolf. His orders Swift Retreat and Enhanced Mobility make the already fast Berserkers almost as mobile as a cavalry unit. The last infantry unit for the Starks are the House Karstark Spearmen. This unit is not great at attacking, but they do well defending. The attachment Brynden Tully ups the morale of the unit and brings some healing too. And what Stark army would be complete without a Direwolf? Direwolves Grey Wind and Summer both join the fray. They can be great for capturing objectives or harrying the enemy flanks and rear. The Stark NCUs are the Ladies of House Stark. Led by Catelyn Stark with Family, Duty, and Honor, this allows weakened Stark units to attack at full strength. Sansa's Repeating the Words ability allows the Stark to reuse some of their best tactic cards. Last, and certainly not least, Arya Stark never does what they expect and gives battlefield units some reactional mobility. Now let's get this battle started and go to the field. As you can see, setup has already been completed. We are playing a standard Game of Thrones match, and as you can see at each of the 5 objectives, there are objective bonuses. On the Stark side, we have while you control this objective, you gain 1 tactics hand size and draw +1 card when refilling your hand. Then on the other side, for Starks, we have while controlling this objective, this unit's melee attack gains Sundering. The central objective has when you score points from this objective, 1 enemy in long range of the unit controlling this objective becomes panicked. That's very handy for Lannister and all the panic tests that they do. Then on the Lannister side, when you score objective points from this objective, 1 friendly unit in long range of the unit controlling this objective may shift 3 inches. Also on the Lannister side, when you score points from this objective, one friendly unit in long range of the unit controlling this objective restores 1 wound plus 1 wound for each of its destroyed ranks. That's another one that can come in handy for Lannister because they tend not to have a lot of healing. As you can see, the terrain has been pre-set up as well. Stark's in a classic first move. We'll send Caitlin to take the letters, and then Stark gets 2 more tactic cards, which helps a lot, especially to see what kind of options you have. At the start of the Lannister turn, Lannister will play Lannister Pays His Debts. So this one will be a useful way to buff up a unit late in the game. Hopefully a unit that will still be around. Lannister attaches that to Gregor Clegan's unit of Lannister Guardsmen. And then another classic move, Lannister takes Crowns and then plays Hear Me Roar. When an enemy is performing a morale test before the dice are rolled. So that is right now, Stark now has to perform a morale test, and that enemy suffers -1 to their roll and an additional -1 for each of their destroyed ranks. And since they already have -1 to their roll from Crowns, they'll now have to do -2 to their roll. Wolves will be going against the standard Stark Sworn Swords. They get +2 to their roll, so they have to get 8 or better. And they roll an 11, so no danger there. For the next Stark turn, Sansa Stark will take the horses and allow one friendly unit to make a maneuver or a retreat. Obviously, we don't need to retreat at this point. Hoping to make Lannister think a little bit more about their positioning. Grey Wind makes a maneuver out into the field of battle. Lannister having been denied the horses zone, Lannister will activate their crossbowmen and give them a march action. Standard move is 5, which means they can march 10 inches. They've completed their activation. By moving them up early in the battle, they can hopefully threaten to get a shot using swords later on in the first round. Stark, in a reciprocal move, will play The North Remembers. This performs very much like a Lannister Pays His Debt. Stark will attach that to Eddard Stark's unit of Eddard's Honor Guard. Stark will then give a march action to their Sworn Swords to cover up a objective marker. They can angle slightly at the end of their move. Just keep in mind that in the Game of Thrones scenario, you are not able to score points from objective markers until the end of round 2. So they won't score any points this time, but it does help them start capturing points. For Lannister's turn, the High Sparrow will take the bags and do nothing because they have no wounds and so they can't heal anything. Sometimes it's useful to take an unhelpful zone on the tactics board as a way of passing action back to your opponent so that you can see what they're going to do and you can then react to their actions. Stark, of course, in a reciprocal fashion, is hoping that Lannister won't be able to use their crossbowmen this round since they've already been activated. So Stark will take the swords and do nothing as well. Lannister will then activate their pikemen and they will march 10 inches to protect the flank of the crossbowmen. Stark then activates Eddard's Honor Guard and marches them up 10 inches as well. Now, Stark knows that the crossbowmen have a range of 12 and never forget that they can shift at the beginning of their attack action. So hoping to avoid being shot by the crossbowmen, the Honor Guard will actually move back outside of the effective range of the crossbowmen, which is 14 inches. and then rotate to get all the way outside of that 14-inch range, that effective 14-inch range. That way they can't get shot at the beginning of the next round. Lannister then activates Gregor Clegan's Lannister Guardsman, rotating slightly. Stark then also responds by activating their Spearmen, and knowing a similar situation awaits for them if they go up too far. They do a short maneuver and attempt to stay outside of the crossbowman's range, while at the same time guarding the flank of Eddard's honor guard. So you can see how Lannister getting their crossbowmen up in the middle of the battle really helps them seize the middle of the field just by the threat of their use. Lannister then activates the Mountain's Men and marches them up 10 inches as well. Lannister then chooses to activate Summer. Remember that cavalry units and units like wolves has the ability to make a free maneuver action. He's not going to need all his movement this turn, but and then he'll do another maneuver, which will maneuver him. And Summer only uses part of it because he doesn't want to be chargeable by the Mountain's Men. He would probably get wiped out on that first attack. So if he sits back just a little bit, there's not enough room between the Sworn Swords and the Mountain's Men to charge him, and therefore he is safe from charging. That's commonly known as charge blocking. Now that would be a relatively long charge, but why take chances? Lannister will activate their House Clegan Brigands, and because they know that the Halberdiers have the set for charge ability, they don't need to protect their flank, because if they took a charge, they would be able to rotate to face it. So the Halberdiers are relatively able to defend a charge from Grey Wind. So, like most or maybe all cavalry, the Brigands get a free maneuver. Brigands get a free maneuver so they can rotate, they can maneuver, and then they will take another maneuver. Just enough to, again, remember, Lannister can't score any points from this until the end of round 2. And that concludes Lannister's activations. Stark then activates and uses Grey Wind's free maneuver action to turn and move a very short distance and then turn again, ending their turn within 1 inch of the stakes, and then performs an attack action which destroys the stakes. Pro tip, I use plastic tack to stick down terrain and objective markers to keep them from being moved around during the course of the game, because that happens a lot. And now Stark gets to go again in order because they have more activations available to them than Lannister does. They have a 9 activation list, whereas Lannister only has an 8 activation list. Keep in mind that armies that have less activations than other armies have 2 pass tokens available to them throughout the course of the game. They can expend 1 to force the other team to take another turn in a row, and it mitigates that activation advantage to some degree. So Stark will now be able to maneuver through this space, and because this is a really fun combination, because of Robb Stark's the Young Wolf ability, he has enhanced mobility. So the already speedy Berserkers now have a move of 7 instead of 6. They also have the ability to pivot before marching, which makes them almost as mobile as cavalry. So they will march not quite the full 14, They will actually sit back just a little bit, making sure that they're more than 14 inches out of range. And of course their march action has a pivot at the end of it. Stark can feel somewhat confident that the brigands won't try to flank charge them because Grey Wind is guarding their flank and would then subsequently charge them in the flank. And that brings round 1 to a close. No victory points are awarded, and each side draws back up to their full hand size. Starting round 2 with Lannisters moving first. Right out of the gate, the Lannisters want to get stuck in because the Mountain's men aren't usually happy unless they're attacking. They have a valid target. They're going to charge against the Stark Sworn Swords. Once you have a valid target chosen, remember you can rotate at the beginning of your charge action in order to cut down on that distance. So they just need to roll 7 inches to the target, so they just need to roll a 2+ in order to have a successful charge. On a 4, Lannister's charge is successful, and they can charge on in there. You don't even have to measure. Now, they can align to 100% at the front of the tray or 50% to either side of the tray. And I think, fortunately, they can't stop. Yeah, there's just enough, unfortunately, there's just enough room for Summer to squeak around the edge. Well, I think. All right, regardless, they're gonna align to center to 50%, hoping that Summer won't be able to get around the edge of them. I think he can, but we will see. All right, Lannisters are attacking, and we want to remember that they gain +1 to hit and have critical blow when attacking enemies with the same or fewer remaining ranks. So we're rolling 7 dice, and they're actually hitting on a 3+ because they gain +1, and we're looking for critical blow. At this point, Lannister is also going to play Price of Failure. So when a friendly unit is performing an attack, like now, before rolling attack dice, all attack dice automatically hit for this attack. For each roll that would have missed, the attacker suffers 1 wound. Since this is a charge, we have rerolls as well, so that's a very good time to play Price of Failure. All right, we hit on everything that's a 3+, and so we get to re-roll the 2. Lannister takes 0 hits from Price of Failure, and every single die is a hit, including 4 hits from 6s, and each of those count for 2 hits because of critical blow. So that's 8, 9, 10, 11 hits. So the Stark Sworn Swords have taken 11 hits. They now have a chance to roll defense die. Their armor saves are at 4+, so they get to roll 11 dice at a 4+. They block 1, 2, 3, 4, and they have to roll 1 more to make it 11. Stark blocks 5 for a total of taking 6 hits, which is a bit of a blow to start the game off. Now, Stark's Sworn Swords have the ability Go Down Fighting. Each time a rank in this unit is destroyed, one enemy they are engaged with suffers 1 wound. So the Mountain's men also have to take 1 hit. Then Starks have to roll to do a panic check. Their morale is 6, but Mountain's men have Vicious, which lowers that by 2. So they need to roll an 8+ in order to pass their panic test. And they pass. Stark then responds right out of the gate. They are going to play Catelyn to take swords and have the Sworn Swords get some hits back in. So the Sworn Swords, having lost a full rank, now will be rolling 5 dice instead of 7. but since they have lost 1 rank, they also gain +1 to hit. They're looking for a 3+. And they have critical blow as well, so 6s, in this case the little dire wolves, also count as 2. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7 hits. Mountain's men have an armor save of 4+. They need 4+ to block. They block 1, 2, and 3, taking 4 hits. All right, Lannister then reacts by taking the bags and healing 3 wounds to the Mountain's men. All right, Stark is really worried about tripping those crossbows. For the Stark's turn, Arya Stark is going to take the horses and give 1 free maneuver action to Eddard's Honor Guard. So they get to rotate. And they will move up just a little. That completes the Stark's turn. Since that was a tactics board maneuver, they can now still activate yet this turn. Lannister responds by activating Master Pycelle. He will take the letters on the tactics board and drawing 3 more cards. He will also expend 1 of his tokens in order to put out a weakened token. So he will put a weakened token onto the Umber Berserkers, and also from playing the letters, you can place 1 condition token on 1 unit, and Lannister will also place a weakened onto Summer. Continuing with the tactics board's chess match, Stark will activate Sansa Stark, who takes the crowns, as much to keep it away from Lannister as anything else. And she will make the House Clegane Brigands take a panic test. And it's -1 to the roll, so their normal panic test is 7, and they're taking -1 to their roll, so they need an 8 to succeed. And they fail, taking a wound. Each figure represents 3 wounds, so we mark it with hearts to show how many wounds they have before taking off a figure. Now Lannister is forced to make a move, which, being short of activations, Lannister will choose to expend 1 of their 2 order tokens to pass back to Stark. Because at this stage of the game, it's very reactionary, and you don't want to open yourself up to an unnecessary charge, if possible. Stark will activate Summer, giving him his 6-inch maneuver. And he is just able to fit between the table edge and the edge of the board. He doesn't even have to get that far. I know it looks like he's over the edge of the board, but the table edge actually extends a little bit beyond, under the overlay on my graphic here. So after doing his free maneuver, Summer can now declare a charge. Out of his front arc, he can see just the very back of the Mountain's men. He can see them, so that means he can charge them. And if you measure from the Mountain's men, Summer is more than 50% in the side arc, which means he will be charging the flank of the Mountain's men. This is what you would consider an auto-in charge. No dice roll will cause him to fail the charge. Summer just wants to avoid rolling a 1. After a bit of suspense there, you see that it is a successful charge, and Summer can now align to 100% or 50% on either flank. To give him a little bit more mobility later on, Summer will align to 50% and roll an attack. Summer rolls 4 dice at 3+. And since it's a charge, he has the ability to re-roll. 3 hits. Lannister rolls 3 defensive die. Their armor save is 4+, but since they're defending in the flank, they get -1 to their roll, so they're defending at 5+ to block the hit. They block 2 hits and take 1 hit. And anytime a unit takes damage, they have to do a panic test. The mountain men's morale is 6, but they get -1 to their roll, so they need a 7+ to pass this morale test. And they pass it with flying colors, taking no additional damage. Now, Lannister does have Cersei available, but because there are no spots available on the tactics board, she's not able to be played or even passed with. Lannister is going to activate their crossbowmen and attempt a shot at Eddard Stark's unit. Anytime you performed a ranged attack, you have the ability to shift before doing that attack. And so the shift of 2 inches. And now you have to measure range from the front arrow, but they do hit any part of Eddard Stark's tray, and so they are in range. And they have Sundering, which means -1 to the armor save for the Starks. As you can imagine, crossbows are good at punching through armor. Hitting on 3+. And that was a terrible roll. 2 hits from the crossbows. All right, Eddard's Honor Guard normally has a 3+ armor save, but because of the Sundering, they need 4+ in order to pass. 2 hits, they roll 2 dice. And because of Sundering, they miss 1. Normally they would have blocked that, but Sundering adds 1 to the roll, and so they fail 1 on a 4. Sworn Swords take 1 hit. And because they took a hit, they now have to do a panic test. Eddard's Honor Guard is being attacked in the front. They have a morale of 6. However, because Eddard is their attachment, they gain +1 to their panic test rolls and suffer -1 wound for failing panic tests. But they still come up just a little short. And they take 2 wounds, but because of Eddard's attachment, they only take 1. At this point, Lannister plays Fealty to the Crown. When an enemy fails a panic test, as Eddard Stark's unit just did, you get to target 1 friendly unit in long range. For each wound that enemy suffered from this test, restore 1 wound up to that friendly unit, up to 3. So, because the Mountain's men are easily within 1, Eddard's Honor Guard only took 1 wound, which means the Mountain's men only restore 1 wound. And they do not control crowns, so it's only 1. But sometimes every little bit helps. Stark will choose to activate their Sworn Swords, and while controlling this objective, this unit's melee attack gains Sundering. So, because they've lost 1 rank, they have Critical Blow, and they get +1 to hit. So they're hitting on 3+, rolling 5 dice. +1 to hit, they hit on 3, so that's 5 hits. Lannister rolls 5 defensive dice. Lannister will be rolling at their typical 4+ armor save. They only block 1. And then they take their panic test. Morale is 6. 6+ to pass. And they pass. Stark's turn is over. At this time, Stark decides to activate Eddard's Honor Guard, and they are declaring a charge on the Mountain's men. This can be a little bit risky because by doing that, if it's successful, they will expose their flank to Gregor Clegan's unit of guardsmen. However, they might also have a chance to wipe out this unit of Mountain's men, and that would be worth it. So they're declaring a charge. They can see the enemy they're attacking easily in their front arc, and they're more than 50% in the arc of the Mountain's men, which means they can charge the flank. Their base move is 5, and that is within the charge distance. So it's what is considered another auto in charge. They just don't want to roll a 1. All right, at this point, Stark is playing Devastating Impact. When a friendly unit is performing a charge action, before rolling charge distance die, enemies successfully charged by this unit become panicked and vulnerable, both very useful traits to have on an enemy. And Stark can also re-roll the charge distance die, which of course they will not need to do because they are within the charge distance. But it could help avoid a disorderly charge. And that paid off. They can now re-roll the charge distance. And they now have a successful regular charge. They can line up at 50% or 100%. And they'll line up at, actually they cannot line up at 100%, but they'll go over as far as they can to maximize the charge distance from Gregor's unit if they aren't able to take them out. Now that the charge has been successful, Stark declares another tactic card. Stark is actually going to play Northern Ferocity. So when a friendly unit is performing a melee attack before rolling attack dice, the attack gains Vicious. It doesn't do any good to panic them because they're already panicked. However, having that Vicious can be really useful in driving home the attack and hopefully destroying the unit. And don't forget Eddard's Rally Cry. Each time this unit is performing a melee attack before rolling attack dice, target one other friendly unit in long range. It restores 2 wounds. So the Sworn Swords are able to restore 2 wounds because they are easily within long range of Eddard Stark. Eddard's Honor Guard rolls 7 dice at 3+, and they get critical blow and rerolls because this is a charge. Because this is a charge, they get rerolls, so they can reroll the 4, 5, 6. Rerolls because of the charge. They hit on 2 more. So with critical blow, that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hits. Mountain's men have a 4-up armor save, but because they're being attacked in the flank, this will be, they get -1 to that roll. So they need 5 up to save. They save 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 saves. And Mountain's men take 3 hits. Now, Stark expends the Weaken token to force the Mountain's men to re-roll the 4 blocks that they had. And they take 1 more hit because of that. Now they have to do their panic check. They're being attacked in the flank, so that's -1 to their roll. And because of the Vicious from Northern Ferocity, that's minus another 2. So they have to get 9+ to save. They fail, and normally they would only take 1 wound. However, Stark expends the panic token to force them to re-roll the white die. You can make your opponent re-roll any of the die that you want. Since they failed, there's no reason to re-roll any of those. Hopefully Stark gets more than a 1 and they destroy the unit. And they do. The Mountain's men are destroyed. Stark gains 1 victory point. Stark can now rotate to face the potential oncoming charge from the Mountain's men. And they're free to rotate through their own unit so long as they don't end up ending their rotation on top of it. Summer also gets to rotate. And that completes the activation for Eddard's Honor Guard. Now, because a unit was destroyed, a command token can be put on a Lannister pays his debts. So any attacks coming from this unit automatically have Vicious. Not wanting to be outdone, Lannister activates the Guardsman and declares a charge on Eddard's Honor's Guard. Remember, they can rotate at the beginning once they have a viable target. Their move distance is only 4, which means they're going to need to roll at least a 2 in order to have a successful charge. And the charge is successful. hoping to avoid a possible charge from, they could align like this, but hoping to avoid a possible charge from the spearmen, they align to 100%. Because no matter what they do, they're going to be vulnerable to a charge from Summer. All right, now Eddard Stark and Gregor Clegane are going head to head. Enemies successfully charged by Gregor Clegane become vulnerable. And because of Gregor Clegane's unstoppable wrath, they get +2 wounds to whatever they roll. So, Lannister guardsmen roll 6 dice at a 4+. And because this is a charge, they get re-rolls. And wow, too bad they don't have critical blow for them. 6 hits. But then because of unstoppable wrath, they get to add 2 wounds to whatever happens. So Stark automatically takes 2 wounds to unstoppable wrath. Eddard's honor guard are down a rank now, so they apply go down fighting, and the guardsmen lose 1. Stark then rolls 6 defensive die. They need 3+. They block 3 hits, thus taking 3 more hits. Lannister removes the vulnerable token, forcing Stark to re-roll the 3 blocks. And they only blocked 2. And Stark takes a total of 4 wounds. And they must now do a panic test. Eddard Stark's honor guard is 6, but because of Iron Resolve, they only need a 5 to pass. And Stark is not getting the rolls this time. But because of Iron Resolve, they do not take any wounds, because it's -1 wound. Stark responds by activating Summer, who uses his free maneuver to fully cover the objective token. Summer takes the objective. Lannister activates the Clegane Brigands. It's a very close call, but Lannister does appear to be in the side arc. Lannister rolls a successful charge with 6. They're able to charge the flank of the Umber Berserkers, capturing the objective. The Clegane Brigands roll 7 dice, hitting on 3+. They hit on all 7. The Umber Berserkers have a armor save of 5+, but because they're being attacked in the flank, it goes down by 1. And keep in mind, you can never lower save dice lower than 6. No matter how many modifiers you have, 6 always saves a hit. So needing 6s. Umbers block 2, taking 5 hits. And the Umbers then a panic test, and they pass. Now, because of Robb Stark's Swift Retreat ability, they can use Expend an Order to perform a free attack action, because an enemy just completed a melee attack. Stark rolls 1. The Berserker's base move is 7 with Robb Stark's ability, so they can retreat up to 9 inches. However, they don't really want to do that. They'll only retreat a few inches and rotate back to face their enemy. Now, whenever an enemy retreats, the brigands can now rotate after the retreat, and they can rotate. One key thing is to rotate to keep Greywind from getting a flank attack. He can't fit on the side, he can't get an attack, and it appears that, yes, also while preventing a flank attack from the Berserkers. Stark now activates the Berserkers and declares a charge. The charge is successful on a 6. Stark can move in and align to 50%, leaving the attack way clear for Grey Wind to attack later on. The Umber Berserkers are down to 2 ranks, which means they can roll 8 dice. For this attack, Stark will play Winter is Coming. And because Stark has the horses, they can choose both options. Enemies successfully charged by this unit can't be the target of orders and tactics this turn. And the attacker attacks using the highest attack die value. So, 9 attack dice from the Starks. They are looking for 3+. 2 rerolls because it's a charge. Only 7 hits. Lannister removes the weaken token, forcing Stark to reroll all of those 7 hits. They don't get any rerolls at this point. This time they only get 5 hits through. Lannister's armor save is 5, they need 5 up. They block 1 and take 3 hits. 3 additional hits means 2 more to this guy because of the 1 marker. So 2, and then we apply the last one to this one. So that last figure has 2 more hits before he's eliminated. Now panic check. They need to pass a panic check of 5. And they pass it easily. Lannister now activates the Halberdiers, and they declare a very long charge. Since the Halberdiers' base move is 5, and it's 8 inches away, they need a 3+ to get the charge. They just got it by the skin of their teeth. Halberdiers charge in, and roll 7 dice, add a 4+. 3 hits plus 4 rerolls because it's a charge, and 4 total hits. The Berserkers normally defend at a 5+, but because they are down 1 rank, they defend at a 4+. They need 4 or higher. They block 2 hits, taking 2 hits. Then they've only lost 1 rank, so their morale is normally 5. Then it goes up to 4, and they are within 6, easily within short range of the heart tree. So they only have to roll 3 or better to pass the panic test. And they do. Lannister is now out of activations, so Stark will activate Grey Wind. He is easily within an auto win, so he only has to not roll a 1, and he easily passes. And Grey Wind attacks, and Grey Wind rolls 4 dice at 3+. Because it's a charge, he gets to re-roll the 2 he misses. 3 total hits. Grey Wind has Sundering, so the Brigand's normal 5+ save turns into a 4+ save. And they're able to block 1 hit, taking 2, and removing another figure. Lannister is out of activations, and so Stark gets 1 more activation. It's a long charge, but the Spearmen declare a charge on Gregor Clegan's unit, and they are more than 50% in their flank. Starks then play Devastating Impact. Enemies successfully charged become panicked and vulnerable, and because Starks control horses, they can re-roll the charge distance die. So they would need it's 9 inches, so they need a 4 or higher to add to their base move of 5. And they succeed. Since it's a successful charge, the guardsmen become panicked and vulnerable. Always want to check to see what that range is. They're going to be within short range anyway, so they're open to a bad crossbow shot, but hopefully it doesn't matter too much. Spearmen roll 7 dice with 3 ranks, and they hit on a 4+. They can re-roll 3 because of the charge, for 5 total hits. The guardsmen block on 3+, but because of the attack in the side, they only block on a 4+. They block 3, taking 2 hits. Stark removes vulnerable to force them to re-roll those 3 saves. And they fail all 3, thus taking 5 hits. Guardsman morale is 7+, within short range of the corpse pile, so it's 8+. They need 8+ to pass the morale test. And they pass, but Stark removes the panic token to force them to re-roll the 2 red dice. And they fail for 3 more wounds. Lannister will now trigger their order, Lannister Supremacy, and target the attacker. They suffer a panic test with -1 to the roll and +1 to wounds on failure for each remaining rank in this unit. The spearmen's morale is 6. Because of the corpse pile, their morale goes down to 7. Well, effectively goes down to 7. -1 to their roll. And then minus another 1 for Lannister Supremacy. So that's -2 to their roll, but Brynden Tully adds 1 back. So their morale is 7. They need a 7+ to pass the morale test. They pass, taking no wounds. That ends round 2. Lannister's brigands are covering the objective marker, but because they have fewer remaining ranks than the unit they're engaged with, they do not collect any victory points. They do not gain any benefits from the card either. Stark, on the other hand, controls 2 objective markers for 2 additional victory points. And when scoring points from controlling this objective, 1 friendly unit in long range restores 1 wound, +1 wound for each of its destroyed ranks. So with 2 destroyed ranks, Eddard's Honor Guard will restore 3 figures. Round 3, the Starks start very much in the driver's seat, since they get to go first. They need to decide, would it make more sense to take out Gregor Clegan's unit right away, or do they want to try and get in some hits with the Berserkers before anything happens to them? The Berserkers are in more peril, so that seems to make more sense. Catelyn Stark activates and takes the swords and puts her family duty honor ability, attaches it to the Berserkers, allowing them to roll 9 dice instead of 8 that they would normally get for 2 ranks remaining. However, in response to Catelyn Stark being activated, Lannister plays Intrigue and Subterfuge. So when Catelyn activated, then she would lose all her abilities until the end of the round, meaning she is not able to attach the card to the Berserkers. The Berserkers declare an attack on the Brigands and roll 8 dice since they have 2 ranks remaining. They hit on all 8 dice. The Brigands' armor save is 5, and they roll 8 dice. They save 1, 2. Saving 2, they take 6 hits, and they are destroyed. Gaining another victory point for the Starks. Grey Wind could rotate, but he couldn't rotate on the middle without rotating and having to stop in a friendly tray, so he effectively can't rotate. That completes Stark's turn. Fearing elimination, the Lannisters activate Master Pycelle and put him on the bags, healing 3 wounds to Gregor Clegan's Lannister Guardsman. Stark activates Eddard Stark's Honor Guard First of all, they activate Rally Cry and heal 2 wounds to a unit within long range. Then, with only 2 ranks remaining, Eddard Stark's Honor Guard declares an attack on Gregor Clegane. Since they're down 1 rank, they roll 6 dice and gain +1 to hit. So they hit on 2+. 6 dice at 2+ to hit. They hit on all 6. With the Lannister Guardsmen trust their armor and defend at 3+. They split the difference and take 3 wounds. They roll their panic check and fail for an additional wound. Gregor Clegane's Guardsmen activate Lannister Supremacy. So now that the attack is complete, Eddard Stark suffers a panic test. The Honor Guard has 6. They lose 1 because of the corpse pile, but then they gain it back because of Iron Resolve. Need a 6+ to pass. They pass the panic test. Cersei Lannister activates and uses one of her tokens to search the deck for Hear Me Roar, and then the draw deck is shuffled. Cersei claims the crowns and plays Assault Orders. When a friendly NCU claims a zone, replace that zone with 1 friendly combat unit performs 1 melee attack using its lowest attack die value. And since Gregor Clegane's unit is already on its lowest attack, they will attack with their lowest attack against the Honor Guard. The Lannister Guardsmen are rolling 4 dice at 4+, but because of a Lannister pays his debts, they hit on a 3+. They land 3 hits, plus 2 additional wounds from Unstoppable Wrath. The Honor Guard roll 3 defense die at 3+. They miss all of them and take 3 more hits. Losing a rank, go down fighting triggers and forces the Lannisters to lose 1 more wound. The Honor Guard must now make a panic check, and on that panic check, Lannister plays Hear Me Roar. When an enemy is performing a morale test, before the dice are rolled, that enemy suffers -1 to their roll, and an additional -1 for each of their destroyed ranks. On failure, they suffer 1 wound, or +1 wound on a failed panic test. Eddard's Honor Guard has a morale of 6, and Iron Resolve cancels out the effect of the corpse pile, but Hear Me Roar applies an additional -2 for each of their destroyed ranks. So Eddard's Honor Guard needs an 8+ to pass their panic test. And they fail the panic test and are destroyed, securing 1 victory point for the Lannisters. Gregor's unit could choose to reorient at this point, but they do not. And that completes the Lannister turn. The Starks begin by playing The North Remembers on the unit of Sworn Swords, and then Stark activates Robb Stark's Berserkers, and they declare an attack on the Pikemen. With 2 ranks remaining, 8 dice looking for 3 or higher. They score 5 hits. The Lannisters' Halberdiers have a 4+ armor save. And block 1 hit, taking 4 wounds. They then perform a panic check, +1 because of the heart tree. They need 5 or better to pass. And they pass easily. Lannister then activates the crossbowmen and aims an attack at the flank of the spearmen. Using shift, they shift forward 2 inches and are not quite able to capture the objective. The crossbowmen are not more than 50% in the arc of the rear of the spearman's tray, so they will only be firing into the flank. The crossbowmen roll 6 dice, looking for a 3+. They have Sundering. And because they're within short range, they can re-roll any misses. Re-rolling 2 misses. 5 hits. The Karstark spearmen have an armor save of 4, but since they're being shot in the flank and sundering is being used, they will only save on 6s. Rolling 5 dice for the 5 hits. They save 0. The spearmen then have to roll a panic check. Their morale is 6, but because of the corpse pile, they lose 1, and they also lose 1 from being shot in the flank. So they need an 8 or higher to pass. And they pass. Stark activates the Sworn Swords and declares a charge. By rotating, they make it an auto-in charge. They're within 5 inches, so they just have to not roll a 1. Barely they make it and have a successful charge. They charge at 100%. The Sworn Swords are back up to full ranks, so they roll 7 dice with critical blow. They can re-roll the 4 misses because it's a charge. And they score, because of critical blow, at 6 hits, 7, 8, 9 hits. Even the Mountain may have some trouble blocking all 9 hits. He has an armor save of 3+. And he doesn't come close. Gregor Clegan's unit is destroyed. This scores 1 more victory point for the Starks. Engaged units can rotate. And it's now Lannister's turn. Lannister activates their halberdiers, reorients to 100%, claiming the objective. They attack still with 7 dice, even only on 2 ranks. Jaime Lannister uses his order, Martial Training. When this unit is performing a melee attack before rolling attack dice, this attack may re-roll any attack dice and the defender becomes vulnerable. So, 7 dice at 4+. With the re-roll, they score 7 hits. The Berserkers at 2 ranks have a defense of 4, so they need to roll 4+. They then go down to 5 because of the sundering from the halberds. 7 dice blocking on a 5 or higher. 2 saves and 5 hits. Destroys the unit. This scores another victory point for Lannister. Because they currently control the objective, Lannister chooses not to rotate. For the Stark turn, Sansa will activate, and she will take the swords and replace that effect with repeating the words, and she can reclaim Devastating Impact from the discard pile. At the beginning of the Lannister turn, the Stark player takes 1 token off of Arya Stark and targets 1 friendly infantry unit to make a maneuver or retreat action. Stark player chooses the Sworn Swords and they maneuver 6 inches to take the objective. And Lannister then continues on with her turn. Lannister then activates the High Sparrow, putting their effect on the spearmen and drawing 2 tactics cards. Stark activates Summer for no effect, maintaining control of the objective. Lannister is out of activations and passes back to Stark. Stark activates Grey Wind, taking the maneuver and then declaring a march. to capture the final objective. And that ends the third round. Stark scores points from 3 objectives, and Lannister scores 1 objective. Then we move on to round 4. Lannister has the first activation in round 4. Lannister activates Master Pycelle to take the swords. He removes 1 token, bringing him down to 1 out of 3, to put a weakened token on the Stark spearmen. And then the crossbowmen shift forward slightly to claim the objective and fire a short-range volley at the spearmen. The Lannister crossbowmen at full ranks roll 6 dice at 3+ to hit. Because they're in short range, they can re-roll any misses, giving them 6 hits with Sundering. The spearman's normal armor save is 4+, but with the Sundering it goes down to 5+. They block 2 hits and take 4 wounds. They then take a panic test. Iron Resolve cancels out the -1 from the corpse pile. They need 6+ to pass. And they pass. Because of Dauntless, each time they pass a morale test, they restore 1 wound. Catelyn Stark activates and takes the horses for a free maneuver for the spearmen. And her effect is placed on the spearmen. Lannister then activates the crossbowmen to maneuver and continue on the objective. Stark activates the Karstark spearmen and declares a charge. With a successful roll of 5, they charge in and attack. Because of Catelyn Stark's family duty honor, they're able to attack with their full dice. Karstark spearmen roll 7 dice, hitting on 4+. They're able to re-roll the 3 misses because it's a charge. They score 6 hits. The Lannister crossbowmen save on 4+. They block 2 hits and take 4 wounds. They then take a panic check with -1 because of the corpse pile they're standing on. They fail with a 5 and take 3 additional wounds. Lannister activates Cersei Lannister and removes the last token from her playing the game ability to find the Hear Me Roar card. Cersei then takes the Crown Zone and forces the Karstark spearmen to make a panic test. Lannister then plays Hear Me Roar. With the corpse pile and Hear Me Roar, the Karstark spearmen suffer -3 to their morale test. The presence of Brendan Tully adds 1 more. This means the Karstark spearmen need to roll 8+ to pass their panic check. They fail. Iron Resolve would remove 1 wound, but Hear Me Roar adds it back again, for a total of 3 additional wounds, and the Karstark spearmen are destroyed. This gives the Lannisters 1 victory point. Lannisters are then able to reorient. Stark activates the Sworn Swords and maneuvers to their furthest point back and still able to control the objective. Lannister activates the High Sparrow and takes the bags to heal 3 crossbow wounds. Stark activates Summer. Maneuvers backwards. Lannister activates the Halberdiers and maneuvers while still controlling the objective. Stark activates Grey Wind and maneuvers backwards. Sansa is activated and takes the letters, drawing 2 new tactics cards. This ends round 4. Stark controls 3 objectives for 3 victory points, and Lannister controls 2 objectives for 2 victory points. Trailing 6-11 and controlling fewer objectives, Lannister concedes the match.
And that's it! A whole game of A Song of Ice and Fire. The time just flies by, doesn't it? Thanks for watching, and if you found this video helpful, please subscribe so that I can keep making more videos about this great game. Speaking of, what would you like to see in the future? Comment below and let me know. Until next time, get out there and practice your new general skills because, as we all know, winter is coming.